In 1185, a young commander won the naval battle that ended a 5-year civil war and opened the way for Japan's first shogunate. He was not the man who became shogun. His name was Minamoto no Yoshitsune, and the half-brother he had just made unstoppable spent the next 4 years trying to have him killed. Yoshitsune died at 30, cornered in a frozen valley in the far north, betrayed by the lord who had sworn to protect him. Centuries later, the Japanese language still carries a word born from what happened to him, sympathy for a brilliant man destroyed by the very side he served. This is the story of the general who won his brother's war and lost his own life for it. To understand how it ended, start with how it began, in defeat. Yoshitsune was born in 1159, the 9th son of Minamoto no Yoshitomo, a warlord who had just led a failed uprising against the rival Taira clan. Weeks after the boy's birth, Yoshitomo was betrayed and killed by his own retainers while fleeing the capital. The Minamoto cause looked finished. The infant survived only because his mother, Tokiwa Gozen, surrendered herself to the Taira leader, Taira no Kiyomori, and pleaded for her sons' lives. Kiyomori spared them, a mercy he would spend the rest of his life regretting. The boy, then called Ushiwakamaru, was sent as a child to Kurama-dera, a mountain temple north of Kyoto, to be raised as a monk, away from politics. What actually happened at Kurama in his boyhood, contemporary sources barely record. What later generations told is far more colorful, that the boy slipped away at night to train in swordsmanship under a tengu, a supernatural mountain spirit, on the slopes above the temple, one of the most beloved images in Japanese folklore and almost certainly legend, first written down centuries after Yoshitsune's death, not by anyone who watched a child train alone in the dark. What can be said with confidence is only this: he did not stay a monk. Sometime in his late teens, he left Kurama and made his way toward a half-brother he had barely met. In 1180, that half-brother, Minamoto no Yoritomo, raised the Minamoto banner again in Izu province, calling the clan's scattered supporters to rise against Taira rule. Yoshitsune, now about 20, left the north and rode to join him, close to their first real meeting, brothers by blood, strangers by upbringing. Yoritomo needed commanders. Yoshitsune turned out to be one of the most gifted the era produced. By 1184, the conflict, later called the Genpei War, Minamoto against Taira, had turned in the Minamoto clan's favor, and the Taira had fallen back to a fortified position at Ichi-no-Tani, on the coast near modern Kobe, its front protected by the sea and its rear by steep, difficult mountains. According to the best-known account, Yoshitsune split off a small mounted force, led it into those mountains, and sent it down an extremely steep slope called Hyodrigo into the Taira camp's unguarded rear, a descent later tellings call near suicidal. The Taira, certain no army could approach from that direction, were routed. It became one of the most celebrated tactical strokes in Japanese military history. It should also be read with some caution. Some modern historians question whether the slope was really as extreme as later chronicles insist, and how much was polished in the retelling. What is not in doubt is the outcome. Ichi-no-Tani fell, and the Taira retreated further west, their position collapsing. A year later, in the spring of 1185, the war reached its end at Dan-no-ura, a narrow strait between the main island of Honshu and Kyushu, where the Taira made their last stand at sea. The Taira fleet, built and crewed by a clan with generations of naval experience, initially had the advantage of the current. Yoshitsune's forces held on, adapted, and as the tide turned in the strait, reversed the Taira's early momentum into a rout. Later accounts add a harsher detail that Minamoto archers began targeting the Taira's boatmen and rowers rather than only its warriors, a break from customary battlefield conduct that, if accurate, would have crippled the Taira fleet's ability to maneuver at all. What followed is not legend. As the battle collapsed around them, Taira no Tokiko, grandmother of the 6-year-old child emperor Antoku, took the boy in her arms, told him they were going to a better place beneath the waves, and carried him into the sea. He drowned with her, along with much of the Taira leadership, and the sacred sword said to have been lost with him that day. It was, by any measure, a real catastrophe, not a dramatic flourish added later. An entire ruling clan, and the child who symbolized it, went into the water in a single afternoon. The Genpei War was over. Yoshitsune had won it. Winning should have made Yoshitsune the second most powerful man in the country. Instead, it made him dangerous to his own brother. Yoritomo was not building a battlefield victory. He was building a government, a new center of military authority in Kamakura, deliberately separate from the old imperial court in Kyoto, and it depended on total control over who held power and where it came from. Yoshitsune, fresh off destroying the Taira, accepted a court title, Shogun, a rank within the imperial police and judicial office, directly from the retired emperor Go Shirakawa without his brother's permission. To Yoshitsune, it may have looked like simple recognition. To Yoritomo, it looked like his brilliant popular brother building ties with the very court his new government was designed to sideline. The suspicion hardened into accusation. Yoritomo declared Yoshitsune a traitor and secured the retired emperor's authorization to hunt him down nationwide. A step later, historians tie to the shogunate's growing reach into every province. Yoshitsune fled Kyoto with a small band of loyalists, among them the warrior monk Musashibo Benkei, whose story this channel tells elsewhere, and for a time the dancer Shizuka Gozen, who was later caught and forced to dance at Kamakura. Her story, too, told elsewhere. For nearly 2 years, Japan's most celebrated general lived as a hunted man, moving in disguise, protected by whoever would still risk sheltering him. Eventually, Yoshitsune reached the far north to the Oshu Fujiwara clan, a powerful family that had sheltered him before. Its lord, Fujiwara no Hidehira, took him in and, by most accounts, meant to protect him as a matter of honor. Hidehira died in 1187. His son, Fujiwara no Yasuhira, inherited the domain, the fugitive guest, and Yoritomo's mounting pressure to hand him over. In 1189, Yasuhira chose his family's survival over his father's word and sent troops to Koromogawa. What is solidly recorded is stark. Yoshitsune was besieged there, and rather than be captured, he killed his wife and young daughter, then took his own life. He was 30 years old. What later storytelling added is richer and less certain. The Gikkeiki Chronicle and the No and Kabuki plays built on it gave the siege a famous scene. Benkei alone at the bridge, absorbing arrow after arrow, dying on his feet to buy his lord time to die with dignity. That core, Benkei dying to defend Yoshitsune, is accepted. The dramatic details were shaped by storytellers over the next 4 centuries, not recorded at that bridge. Yasuhira sent Yoshitsune's head south as proof of loyalty. Yoritomo accepted it, then destroyed the Oshu Fujiwara within months anyway. The betrayer gained only a name remembered for it. 3 years later, Yoritomo was named shogun, founding the Kamakura shogunate, Japan's first, built in part on the destruction of the brother who had won it for him. The story did not end there. Storytellers returned to Yoshitsune for centuries, and Japanese eventually gave that fascination a name, Hogen Biki, favor for the Hogun, the very title that helped seal his fate. Today it means something broader, sympathy for a brilliant underdog destroyed by the side he served, not his enemies. Few figures earned that phrase as directly as the man it was coined for. If this story was worth your time, subscribe. Forgotten Japan tells the stories that the famous tales of samurai and shoguns leave out.